It used to be $6.99. I feel so validated right now. Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and welcome to a day in my life. Vegan Prepper. Vegan Prepper. I am so excited for today. It's the day I get to decant my apple spiced rum liqueur. It's a recipe I saw on the Herbal Academy of New England's Instagram page, and it just looked so delicious. I had to make it. So I will link that recipe down below for any of you who are okay with alcohol and who want a really beautiful holiday type drink. That one jar that I'm making is going to last our whole family, including all the people that live around here, at least until Christmas, if not even to the new year. We really are not like a family that drinks a lot, but just every now and then I decide to have a special little extra drink, and that's what the liqueur is. So basically I have to now go make a brown sugar simple syrup. So I make all of our brown sugar, like a lot of people do. This is not new or revelatory, but basically you do 1 tablespoon of molasses to 1 cup of sugar, and that makes a light brown sugar. If you want a dark brown sugar, you use 2 tablespoons of molasses. However, I definitely don't recommend doing that with blackstrap. I always make a light brown sugar, but it always turns out looking super dark with the blackstrap molasses, using only 1 tablespoon. A lot of times blackstrap molasses is not recommended for making brown sugar because of the bitterness, because of the fact that it contains such a high number of minerals. Just 1 tablespoon contains 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses contains 25% of the iron you need in a day, 15% of the calcium you need in a day, and 8% of the potassium you need, not phosphorus, potassium that you need in a day. It's got a ton of really good stuff in it. Not that I necessarily recommend it as like a nutritious drink or whatever, you know, like it's still sugar, but it has a really long shelf life. Some people consider it a forever food. Some people say it's more like 10 years. Regardless, that's a long time. Really great thing to have on hand to make sure that you have something you could just like mix into water to, you know, if you were in a situation where you were forced to eat from your stores, it would be a healthy thing for you, potentially to help supplement some nutrients. But then also, like if you're doing hard labor or whatever, the carbs could be good at that moment to kind of lift yourself up. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to talk too much about it. Let's make a simple syrup. Land and go. I tried to get close enough that you couldn't see my dirty stove, but it did not work. There it is. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Let me show you how I'm planning on straining that. All right, here's how I'm planning on straining. I have a brown sugar simple syrup all made now. Here is my liqueur, basically, or I don't think it's liqueur yet because this is not mixed in, but basically here's my infused rum ready to decant. And so basically I'm going to strain because it's such a large amount. I'm using my Vitamix blender container because it will hold actually a little over a half gallon. So this is kind of my favorite way to strain large amounts of things. And also it's super handy because it just comes with its own little, you know, it's got a pour spout and everything. So it's very handy to do it that way, to basically just use it as your catching container. So what I'm using first is one of these baskets. They are typically for like, I guess frying, you know, lifting stuff out of oil. I've never used it for that, but I definitely use it when I'm, you know, just for when I make dumplings or if I boil potatoes and I want to just fish them out rather than pouring everything into a colander, or anytime when you'd like, I like to use this for anytime I like to fish something out of boiling water, when dumping it out might create big splashes of boiling water that would be, you know, obviously undesirable. So that's the main thing that this gets used for. But I also will use it as my strainer for straining anything that has mostly really large pieces in it. And then basically I'm going to pull out another small strainer, which I will use when I pour this back into the jar to catch any of the little pieces that I might have missed here. So I will show you what that process looks like. But basically the very first thing is I'm going to dump this in here and then basically just dump it back through a smaller strainer. And that will be it. I wish you could smell it. It smells incredible. It smells like the holidays. It smells like fall and Christmas and every beautiful thing you're grateful for in one. I just love that smell. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And I'm thinking I want to be there to catch solids once they fall out, but oh wow, look, they're so big, they just sort of caught themselves. All right. I don't remember what the recipe said I could do with these solids. I can't remember if I can compost them or not. So I'll have to look into that, but look at that. How awesome. I didn't even really need that thing, but you never know. But now there's the liquid I have so far, or what I have now. And it looks like it's just over a quart. So that's not going to be as much as it looked like in the jar, of course, right? Because the vast majority of the space was taken up by the apples. So this is really not, even though it was a huge jar, it ends up not really being a lot, which is good. Okay, and now I'm going to just get my simple syrup poured in. Beautiful. And it feels like it's almost room temperature. It never really got super hot because you just heat it until it dissolves the sugar. It doesn't ever have to get super hot. So I'm gonna basically use this now to pour my infused rum into the brown sugar syrup and make my liqueur. Yay. So the recipe mentioned that this is great to add to things too. Like you can add this as because it almost ends up being, you know, an extract. So see, I got some good little solids in my little tea strainer here. You can use it as a flavoring for instance, apple cider, you know, add just a little bit of this to be just a flavor addition. Let me see. Oh yeah, it still smells incredible. So I'm gonna go ahead and taste some just straight up and see what I think. But yeah, I'm very, very happy about this project. I think it turned out wonderful. I mean, at least I hope I did. Like, I hope it did. Like I said, I didn't taste it yet, but let me go ahead and give it a taste and tell you guys what I think. All right, here are a couple of sample shots, basically. I'm going to try this with my son. Okay, so I have my son, he's 21. And so we're gonna try this out. This is apple spiced rum liqueur. So it's like sweet alcohol. Okay. There's cinnamon and clove and apple. And so I'll just sort of taste it. I mean, it certainly smells really good. I feel like I smell apple and cinnamon and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Whew.
Oh,
It's a lot of alcohol. Mm-hmm. So they were saying this could also be used as a flavoring for like cider or something, okay. But I don't know.
No, yeah.
I don't get as much apple drinking it. Mm-hmm. I still definitely taste the cinnamon. Oh gosh, that's when I felt it. I felt it go through my whole all my sinuses. My throat definitely feels a little bit burning and warm. I don't know. What do you?
Definitely. Yeah, I have that warm feeling in my chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it tastes good. Oh gosh, because like it reminds me of something right when I first tasted it.
Maybe, I don't know, because I don't really get a lot of apple drinking it, but I definitely smell apple smelling. So I don't know, it does, and I feel like it's like it tastes like something too, and I bet you it's apple. But it's like it doesn't taste like apple enough that we say, oh, that tastes like apple.
You know, it's very slightly reminds me of eggnog at the very beginning.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if rum was traditionally what was put into eggnog. I don't even know these things, but now we can make a vegan eggnog and put a little bit of this in. That will probably be good. But actually just feeling the feeling in my throat and my chest and my sinuses, you can see why drinks like this have been popular like throughout history in wintertime. that there is actually a study that has been done because there is a certain medicinal effect of alcohol, obviously not in excess. In excess, it can be harmful, not just because it impairs your judgment and hurts your liver and all of that. There's other reasons that alcohol is not necessarily good, but people who apparently drink fewer than 2 drinks per day are less likely. I can't remember the percentage, but it was quite a marked percentage. They were that much less likely to develop lung disease.
Huh.
So it's like drinking a little bit, but it's probably honestly the I'm trying to think of the word. Is it antiseptic? Killing of germs.
Yeah, I think it is
Antiseptic.
Antiseptic.
Like, what's
yeah.
the word? It's probably that quality, that it's literally killing germs in your sinuses and in your whatever, your throat and stuff, and that's probably what helps prevent the sickness, honestly. So some really good anti-infectious herbs would probably also be great. It doesn't have to be alcohol. I can imagine doing an apple spiced syrup, just the syrup, not with the alcohol, that you could then put into stuff. That would be a delicious flavor. I'm sure that there are recipes out there like that for anybody who does not want the alcohol. And yeah, I guess that's it. So what do you think overall?
I like it.
It's pretty good. All right, I'm teaching him to love booze.
Yeah.
What a good mom I am, right? Now it's time to go ahead and do the Etsy orders that I have slated for completion today. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. And then after that, make a lunch. While I'm waiting for the rings I just fired to cool, I don't use a water quench anymore because it just sort of is too much mess and there's no point to it. If I just let things sit for a little while, everything will cool down. But while that's cooling, I'm going to go ahead and make a 1/2 gallon of tea for our lunch, or for people to enjoy either at lunch or around lunchtime. And so basically, when you're brewing a 1/2 gallon of medicinal strength infusion, you need usually about a 1/2 cup of dry herbs. So I have just picked out lemon balm, oat straw, and nettle. These are very common herbs for us to use in our teas. My plan is to do 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of nettle leaf, 2 tablespoons of oat straw, and then 2 tablespoons of lemon balm for a total of 8 tablespoons, which is 1/2 cup. I have a little 1/8 cup scoop here. So I'll do 2 scoops of this, 1 scoop of this, 1 scoop of this into the jar, pour boiling water over the top, let it brew for at least 45 minutes to an hour, and we will have ourselves a yummy tea. This lid now is on here just as a cover because you're supposed to kind of cover your teas, both to keep volatile oils in and to keep anything else out. But basically the ring is only on like for show, primarily to keep this from coming off. But honestly, this is gonna kind of seal itself as it sits. So don't tighten this down, leave it loose, because after it sits here for 45 minutes to an hour with the hot liquid inside, it'll be very difficult to get this off because it's hard to squeeze this and squeeze this. You can try to use oven mitts or whatever. It's just it just becomes a sketchy endeavor. So just leave this loose. And in general, teach people to respect the tea jar. Don't mess with it. And we leave it 45 minutes to an hour. And then we'll come back and it will be some amazing tea. Pretty much all of this will have fallen to the bottom at that point. Actually, somebody made fun of me once for this, but I'm going to show you guys anyway. One of my favorite things on this earth is actually just to sit and watch the tea fall. Like, it's so peaceful to me just watching it gradually go down, especially when I'm brewing something like calendula. And it's beautiful. The flowers completely rebloom in the tea, like in the jar. And then when those will fall, it's just this beautiful flower falling. So I was like, one of these days I need to just make a YouTube video of nothing but just video of the tea jar. I find it to be so relaxing. And somebody was like, yeah, I guess they thought it was stupid, but I don't know. These are the beautiful moments that I live for. And I don't know, it's just beautiful, beautiful times. there's beauty everywhere, really, if we just take the time. I am finished with everything with my orders except for the finishing, which I know probably sounds funny, but the next steps I need to do in the kitchen, and Elliot is actually making lunch in the kitchen right now. Super, super mega sweetheart. He is very helpful, but he's also highly motivated to learn how to cook and do stuff like that for himself now. And so that, I'm not complaining about that. But yeah, he's finishing up lunch right now, and then I guess we'll eat lunch and I will be able to do the finishing on my orders. So I sort of have a little pause, and I'm sitting here looking out my window, planning my next projects and kind of what I'm thinking of doing next. I do have in a basket on the counter, I think it's already shown up in the background of this video, there's some okra in a basket. I harvested this morning, so I have quite a lot of okra. There's more in the fridge. I'm still not 100% sure what I'm doing with it. I have never grown it or cooked it myself. I've eaten it before. I know I really love it, cooked up like in a curry in an Indian restaurant, and so that's kind of my plan for it, is to find an Indian recipe for okra and do that. But I'm also considering just dehydrating it and then just doing it later and figuring it out later. So I don't know, but I also have a big pile of Jamaican sorrel, which is Hibiscus sabdarifa, and that is going to become jam. Adam's favorite jam on this earth is sorrel jam. So I think I finally have enough now that I can make a decent batch of jam. He's just kind of obsessed. I have tried to dry it in the past because I want to have my own homegrown stock of hibiscus. But I'm just going to turn it all into jam. I do have some that I've purchased, and I'll just purchase some, but the jam really should be made, or not should, I hate to should on anybody. I'm sure there are methods out there for making it with dried hibiscus, but it's like fresh is so good. And there's also a method by which you boil the seed pods themselves in order to get your pectin mixture basically for your jam. I don't think it's technically an approved recipe, which is normally a no-no for me, but I'm a little bit less afraid when it comes to jams, as long as, you know, the acid content is nice and high and all of that. And sorrel jam recipes are really acidic, and it's fine. So I feel a little bit more comfortable with that than I would with any other, you know, like generally non-approved recipe. But I'm looking out again, just kind of for projects, and here's my giant rosemary bush over there, and that's my bush. It's actually technically 2, but at this point it's just so massive, and so even still, even if it's 2, they're both really pretty huge. So these 2 bushes right here, I want to trim them back pretty dramatically, and dry just like a ton of rosemary. And then over through here, there's all these chives. I don't think you can see very well, but through there is one of my stands, actually the original stand of my Egyptian walking onions. And so they're all over my yard now. Every single time I see a bulb, I pick it and I just go put it somewhere else in the garden. They have taken off everywhere I've put them. They're doing great. I have not yet had success growing regular bulb onions. I don't know if I don't have the timing right, or if they just, I don't know, just don't do well here, or I don't know. So personally, I haven't ever had success with that, but these Egyptian walking onions are taking off for me, and I don't even have to do anything. So that's fantastic. And I'm going to keep focusing on the things that are easy for me. At this point, like, I think I've been gardening now for, I don't even remember, like, quite a long time. And at this point, I don't necessarily grow all the things that other people grow. I grow the things that grow for me. And so just whatever works in my yard, that's what I grow. And these Egyptian walking onions have just been added to the list. So they're perennial. They've already survived more than a year. I know that they will survive a whole year in my yard. I'll just put them everywhere. After they grow for a while, you can actually harvest the whole thing, and you get yourself almost like not quite a bulb onion, but more like a shallot. So my hope is that eventually I'll have enough that I can harvest and have more bulb onions in that way. But I might be, if I'm, you know, continuing towards my goal of producing more and more and more on our little property here in the city, I might be switching over a lot of my recipes from using regular bulb onions and using green onions. And so I have done that before. Actually, this will not be my first time, but it will be a concentrated effort to start figuring out kind of equivalence and all of that. So I've shared many times we had a really, really lean time in the past where we had like virtually no money. And I was saved by our green onions, by planting them from the store and then just taking them and shoving the roots in the ground and having perpetual green onions. And I didn't have to buy onions. I was using green onions for months because, yeah, we had like literally no money for anything. And I was saving money everywhere I could and basically only using green onions. There were times I was just out of garlic for months. And basically the only kind of allium, I guess, type flavoring that we had in any of our meals was green onions. So anyway, this is like, we've done this before. And I don't have to right now, praise God. But yeah, looking at making sure that we can produce as much as possible. And, you know, I'm back to it again. We don't have to, but I am back to, like many people, thinking of how can I buy fewer things? Is there a way that I can stop buying this? And you know, this is kind of where we are. And it looks like the Egyptian walking onions are going to be it for me, at least as a source of green onions. But yeah, anyway, we're going to go get lunch now, I think. I am about to repeat the same straining procedure for our tea. And then I know this is plastic, but it's not going to be in there for very long at all. If I had a larger non-plastic container, then I would use it. But I don't. So here we go. All right, it ends up being the same exact procedure. Like I said, I do a larger strainer first to get most of the big stuff. And then the final strain is usually just through this tiny tea strainer, and it just works perfectly. And that's how I get us, you know, a really well-strained tea. And then all this is going to go into compost when I let it cool a little bit, and then that will just go into compost. But one of the reasons I strained, actually a lot of times I don't strain. Many times the way that I sweeten my tea is to just add stevia when I brew the tea. But this time around, because we've got allergies going on in the house, Sage is having an allergy attack that's just lasting a while. I'm going to be sweetening the tea once it cools down a little more. It's still a little too hot. It needs to basically be just a little warmer than room temperature. But I will be sweetening it with raw local honey. I know this is not, you know, there might be some strict vegans who just unsubscribed, but we still use honey. Raw local honey from, you know, trusted hives. I've talked about it in some other videos before. I don't feel like getting into all of the reasoning, or I don't know. I don't feel like I have to justify or explain myself. We still use honey from raw local sources. It is one of the most incredible cures for allergy issues that exists. It just is. Taking a tiny bit on a spoonful when you're having an allergy attack a few times a day, sweetening a good nettle-based tea. Nettles is amazing for allergies as well, with a bit of that raw local honey. But you have to do it, again, you have to wait until it's cool enough that you're not killing all of the stuff in the honey. That is so good. But yeah, we do that, and that's going to be to try to help both Sage and Adam. It'll be like for cups or whatever, but then, you know, the rest of us will also be drinking it, and it will still be good. So yeah, I'm going to let this cool a little more and then add some honey to it to sweeten it up and be giving that to Sage, and it'll be really yummy. So anyway. Just getting everything finished up finally. It's taking way longer than I thought it would, as it usually does. But almost done. Stuff is going to go get mailed, and then I will be able to sit with Sage and hang out. It is the next morning, and I'm getting my harvest from yesterday put away. So things have been going on. Adam actually came home from work yesterday with a fever, so I got distracted. I didn't get any of this put away. So it got set out on the counter all day and overnight, but thankfully it still looks fine. So here's my bag of okra. I'm still waiting to deal with, so not all of this is from yesterday. Obviously, I know some of it is way too huge. I don't know what the heck is going on. It's like too small to harvest, and then all of a sudden it's 3 times too big. So this is not going to go to waste. I'm going to cook it probably in the Instant Pot, or I'm going to cook it, or I'm going to dehydrate it. I haven't decided quite yet. And so basically, if anybody has tips on how to get your okra when it's the appropriate size, then please definitely let me know. But yeah, anyway, I'm not really worried about it. So it's just gonna go into the fridge until I decide what I'm doing with it. And then this is sorrel from the first harvest of sorrel that we got. This is my second harvest. I think we are getting pretty close to the amount that I need to make a small batch of jam. So that will be happening relatively soon. This is Adam's favorite jam in the universe. It's Jamaican sorrel. So this though is stripy, and basically I got these seeds from Baker Creek, or rareseeds.com, and the calyxes are all stripy, and so that's fine. I contacted the company and they just basically said they must have crossed with something. You know, they have open pollinated heirloom seeds, and I'm not super upset about it. Actually, the jam turns out this really beautiful blush pink color, and it still tastes delicious. So we're just using them as is, but I'm more explaining that for anybody who's like, that doesn't look like any sorrel I've ever seen. And yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like any sorrel I've ever seen either, but it still works. Hopefully the next time we get it though, I will get those beautiful, like deep blood red calyxes, because those are the ones I think that would have more of the heart healthy compounds, and I can start kind of building my own stash of hibiscus that I grew myself. So as an FYI, when you make hibiscus tea, this is what the tea is made out of. Not the whole thing. It's the petals here. They get popped off, and that's what you make your tea out of. Inside is the seed pod. So yeah. So people often, and I know I've said this a million times, but I feel like I need to say it every time. People mistakenly say often that hibiscus flowers make hibiscus tea, and that is not the case. It's the calyx. It's almost like rose hips. This is what's left behind when the flower goes away, and that's what you're making the tea out of, is these little petals here. And maybe that's partly where some of the confusion comes from. So here are some that I already dried just on a plate. And it's these hard petals, but you see they're not nearly as red as hibiscus typically is. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get in here because obviously there's a little cayenne, and I'm going to go ahead and put those on my plate. I have talked before, I have such a dry climate that I can leave stuff out and it will just dry for the most part. It doesn't mold, it just dries. But with my peppers, a lot of times what I do is I wait for a while, then I will cut them into slices, just kind of en masse, and then I'll dehydrate those, but they are so small. What I like to do is actually just dehydrate them on a plate, and maybe I'll do that later and show you guys what that looks like. And it works perfectly fine. So I just put all the pieces on a plate and put it into my dehydrator, and it works, and I don't have to use parchment, and I don't have to worry about all the spice getting onto my dehydrator trays. And yeah, it works perfectly fine. So I did that before. I have an entire jar over here of my, my previously dried cayenne peppers. But yeah, these guys are going to go into this bag, and then it's going to go right into the fridge, and hopefully soon I'll be able to make a sorrel jam. And this is actually giving me an idea. Maybe I should try a little bit of pepper in there, but I don't want to mess with the recipe. You guys know I'm paranoid about canning, like so paranoid, and I do not want to mess with the recipes. So anyway, yeah, I'll go show you my jar of previously dried cayenne peppers. All right, it's over here. All of this is conditioning and doesn't need to condition anymore. It's been long enough, but I haven't gotten it over onto my regular food shelf yet. But here are the slices of mostly cayenne, which I dehydrated out of the garden. There was one green bell pepper, and actually there's a few slices of Anaheim chilies in here, which turned red on the bushes. And I just decided to put them in with the cayenne. But the vast majority of this is cayenne, and that's basically exactly what I did with all of it, what I just described. I sliced it, I laid them out on a plate, and then I dehydrated them at 125. And I ended up with that. And it was probably a pile about as big as is currently on the little plate over on my counter right now. So I'm gonna need to move this up to a new jar. And also pretty soon, now that I know that it's fully dehydrated, I will blitz these to make them a little smaller, to make them more like red chili flakes. So I'm very happy. I am now officially producing this for myself. I probably don't need to ever buy red chili flakes again from the store. So just one thing at a time, you know? Because I talked about it, I decided to go ahead and do this project for you guys. So this is a jar of my sorrel from, gosh, last year or maybe the year before. I honestly can't remember. I didn't date the jar. But this was me starting my own stash of the medicinal Jamaican sorrel, even though it's not the super dark red one. But I'm gonna go ahead and just take these little petals and stick those in there. And I have rinsed my cayenne peppers off in the sink. So I'm gonna put the strainer right there. So it doesn't make a mess on the counter. And basically what I will be doing is just putting, you know, a few of these together at a time, if it makes sense, and just chopping in little slices and then putting those onto the plate. And that plate will go into my dehydrator, specifically my Excalibur dehydrator. And I will show you guys, I guess, what that looks like. The reason I decided to dehydrate on my plate is with the cayenne is twofold. Number one, obviously there's these tiny seeds, and then also pieces, some of these pieces are tiny, and when they get dehydrated, they get even tinier. So I don't want them falling through the mesh. The other thing is because this is cayenne pepper, it's full of heat. Obviously, it's that capsaicin is in there, and that makes everything that touches it turn spicy. And so because of the fact that the sheets in the Excalibur are kind of made of plastic, and even like a silicone sheet being put down, I'm not 100% convinced that I can get every single one of these capsaicin oils out of whatever material they dehydrate on. But I am convinced, or I'm sure, that the capsaicin will wash off of the glass very well in the dishwasher, because the glass is not porous in any way. It's not going to receive any of these oils. There might be some on top of the plate, but yeah, as soon as it goes into the dishwasher, those will be gone. So that's kind of the twofold reason behind why I do these on plates. Because I don't want to leave spice on my dehydrator trays, and yeah, because the pieces are tiny. Here is the plate all full of the cayenne peppers. So you just sort of push them out, lay them flat, and then I will show you how you make sure that you get the capsaicin off your fingers, so you know you're safe. Now, I wish I could show you completely, but I kind of can't right now. I'm just filming this one-handed. So basically, the primary thing is to rub your hands down with oil. And then when you wash your hands, the capsaicin will be off. I don't know if you've ever done this with hot peppers and you've washed your hands and felt like your hands started burning as soon as the water hit them. That's because it's the volatile oils in here that are the capsaicin, that spiciness, right, that hits our tongue, but it's also what makes it so effective for muscle pain and whatnot. But the way that you get that off is by putting another oil. And so that's how you just make sure. And that is also for if you accidentally do touch your eye, get it in your eye, do not wash your eye out with water, use oil, because the water will just drive the volatile oils, that spicy capsaicin, deeper into your eye. This is the same as with essential oils. You use another oil, like an olive oil, to flush your eye if you accidentally get them in, not water. So basically I will rub my hands down with olive oil and then I will wash them. And that's how I know that my hands will be safe. If you really want to make absolutely sure, go ahead and repeat the process. Do it more than once. You might feel a little bit of that spice on the back of your hands. You know, if you use the olive oil over your whole hand, and if you feel like you just want to make absolutely sure, then once you've rinsed all of the oil off your hands with water and soap, go ahead and reapply the olive oil and clean again, and then that will make you absolutely certain that that spiciness is off your hands. And then you won't have to use gloves. I don't like using gloves because they are, you know, I feel like it's wasteful. But obviously, if that's, you know, what you decide you want to use, then go right ahead. Just for me personally, I like to try to, when I can, I like to try to reduce my waste. There's definitely areas where I don't, you know, like case in point, I buy this. This container's not recyclable in my area, so I am not perfect. But anyway, just thought I would share that tip about the olive oil. Oh, I'm tired. Here we go. In order for it to fit, I need to remove one of the trays. So that will basically just sit in there. And I'll cover it, turn it on, usually I think 125, and just let it dehydrate, and it should happen relatively quickly. This is one of my other hang-ups as far as why I let this go so long, because they were sitting there. I've had that first batch of peppers was sitting there for like a week. And one of the main reasons is I don't like to run my entire dehydrator for just like one little thing. But, you know, sometimes I just get to the point where I'm like, I gotta do it. But then at the same time, I don't like running my dehydrator, mixing the hot peppers and other things, because that whole thing with the capsaicin, like it just gets everywhere. And so I'm afraid that it would make anything else that I dehydrate with it spicy, so I leave it out. But anyway, I decided it was time to do it because I got that second harvest of cayenne from the yard, and I'm looking at my bushes and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get even more. Like they just are coming in hot right now, no pun intended, but they are. So anyway, I got to get them dehydrated. I got to get them in there, even if that's the only thing, and it's only one plate. So hopefully it'll dehydrate faster because it's the only thing in there. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get that done and get back to taking care of sick husband and sick kid, and my back hurts. I don't think I shared that part yet. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's been really interesting. There's reasons I haven't been posting videos lately. I decided to go ahead and dry these too, and then I think that I will just plant them when it gets hot enough. I'm like seeing, will it fit? No, it won't fit. All right, I need to take another one of these out. But yeah, I'm gonna do that. So anyway, I can't do it one-handed, but these are gonna go in another section. And yeah, normally I just compost them, but I was looking at them and thinking, gosh, that's a lot of seeds. And yeah, like I said, I think I'm just gonna stick one of these in the ground when it gets to be the time to plant hot peppers again. They will do well over winter, the ones that are established, but it is too cold to plant them now and have new plants do well. Perfect. That's what I got. That ended up being snapshots of 3, maybe 4 days of my life, with just tiny bits of filming as much as I could, but still not very much, which is par for the course of the last couple weeks of my life. It's just been crazy busy with the start of school and Sage even starting preschool, and I'm driving so much, and a lot more has been added to my days. And so, I mean, it's all good, but we're in an adjustment period, and I'm trying to figure out, how does this work now? How do I do this? Because this is what I want to do. So I'm figuring that out. But definitely, if you have video ideas and things that you'd love to see, let me know in the comments down below some specific things, and I might get started on those right away. And yeah, I guess that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave you because this already got really long, and we don't necessarily need to add a super long goodbye on top of it. And as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. I really mean that. See you guys in the next one. Bye.